Hello, you're back with Dave and Tim at the Single Malt Review, and everything is coming up me today because we're looking at not only my favourite distillery, but one of the oldest whiskies in their core range. It is Glendronach Alladice, the 18-year-old classic from the classic Highland distillery.
It is possibly one of the classiest minis we've ever had on the table. 18-year-old whiskey in a wee mini. You'd be you were lucked out if that rolled out of the hotel mini fridge. Oh yes.
A few years back, while Tim was in Scotland, he sent over a number of samples, including Glendronach Parliament, the 21-year-old, which I reviewed solo and rated very highly. Thank you. This is its very slightly younger cousin, bottled as typically at 46% ABV with no colouring or chill filtration.
Yes, indeed. So true to the Glendronach style. And first, Alladice, that's James Allardice, who was the distillery's founder, which I shouldn't have had to look up, but I did. And so that's the namesake of the whiskey. And no coloration, and look at that.
It is dark.
Look at that. That is some properly dark nonsense. If
all Oloroso and oh god, sorry, mental blank there.
It is all Oloroso, yes, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, okay, good. I thought there was another.
So no, it's Oloroso and nothing but Oloroso. So we should be looking for the real classic Glendronach through line here, like absolutely nothing else. Parliament, from memory, has quite a lot of PX in it, and maybe even a bit of port.
Right.
So that's a bit of a soupier consistency, I suppose. I mean, I love it to death, but it is very, very desserty whiskey. This one has always struck me as a bit more of a. This is a lighter touch Glendronach, which is certainly not the norm. Glendronach kind of goes in heavy with the sherry flavours. This one, I think we'll discover, a little bit more delicate. Although not on the nose.
Richly sherry nose.
The nose holds none of its sherry back. Wow, yeah, that is... There is a sort of box of raisins. There is...
Christmas cake, spices, nuts.
Huge amount of ginger. Mega ginger.
Real spice box. Ginger, cinnamon, little nutmeg.
And like soaked Christmas cake. Brandied.
A lot of very old whiskey essence.
Boy, oh yeah, that is rich and it's strong as well. That 46% really comes through. You can tell it's got weight.
That is a divinely rich, warm, mouth-filling, full of vapours, quite a bit of spirit heat, but it's...
That really goes places on the
It
tongue.
does. Ginger loaf with butter.
First off, that's a lot more vibrant than I was expecting. I was expecting something a wee bit more buttoned up, but that one, that moves.
It's not starting to go into the heavy, slightly dank territory of very old whiskey. It's still fresh and crisp.
That is quite vibrant, and I think it's quite a bit different to the one I tried. What's now many years ago. So I think that's gone. It's gone in a slightly fresher, kind of a more flowing direction than it used to be.
It is still warm and expansive though.
Let's see.
Just a little water to get full.
Something tells me
the full juice.
This will benefit from just a wee dip of water.
Just a smidge.
Yes. There we go. Now we're getting the... Because I always had this in my mind slotted into the... This is the slightly lighter touch, slightly fresher, fruitier touch than you normally get from Glendronach. And I think I might have been remembering it with a splash of water because that really gets the fruit out there. Now we've got the sort of cooked apple, stewed fruit kind of a thing.
Apple pie with cinnamon.
Yeah, super duper apple pie with cinnamon.
Citrus studded with cloves.
I think that sort of the like the apple crumble, spiced cooked apple is probably the perfect tasting note for this one. It's really the one central to all of the other things. That and the fresh ginger.
There's also some good pancakes of syrup, and I'm getting a bit of lemon curd out of there too. Yeah, I like a bit of lemon curd when I'm tasting it.
It's interesting in that I think the older a fully sherry matured whiskey gets, the harder it is to make because sherry maturation multiplied by time becomes such a juggling act. It's not the only reason a lot of distilleries don't do it. It's also a very expensive process. But sherry casks are they're so atypical to bourbon, and that they all behave a wee bit differently because they all come from so many more different sources. I mean, bourbon is probably going to be one of 4 different cooperages in the States, using one of maybe 2 different oak forests. The wood is very, very similar. It behaves in a very, very predictable fashion, which makes forecasting, making your older whiskey much, much easier. Sherry like this, that can go completely mental, almost at the drop of the hat. That's why I think so many no-age statement things like a Boona and what do they even call it?
The Ibisco?
Yes, Ibisco, things like that. And famously the no-age statement, mega high-proof, mega sherried Glenfarclas example.
Yeah.
I think that's the edge being taken off these sherry barrels, which might otherwise torpedo something that was aiming for a full 18-year-old maturation.
Glendronach does the vast majority of their maturation exclusively in Oloroso and PX casks.
Yeah, and it's sort of for that reason that I think them, along with conspicuously Glenfarclas, which do the same thing in terms of using the majority sherry, they're sort of barrel handlers, the barrel wranglers, the blending team. They have to work a lot harder than ones that usually use bourbon for most of their stuff, because you can more or less chuck whiskey in bourbon and let it go. Nothing bad's going to happen. If you put whiskey in the wrong cask and multiply it by 18 years, and it was sherry, you could end up with something bananas. It could go properly nuclear in half that time. To get whiskey this far along in 100% sherry wood is it's a deft practice, and I certainly take my hat off to Glendronach to producing something that is full on. We will make no illusion that it's not. It's full on, and it's more sort of wears the sherry on its sleeve than Glenfarclas. They're probably the masters of understated sherry maturation. This is definitely it's honest. There's no confusion here. No one could mistake this for anything but a sherry matured whiskey, but it's not out of control.
Yeah.
Nothing about it is out of control.
Something it doesn't have, which Glenfarclas does, is that slightly tinned veggie, slightly vegetative dankness, if you can call it, the faintly metallic, savoury properties you get on an old Glenfarclas. There's none of it here on Glendronach. I always find it consistently sweeter and fresh fruitier.
It's way sweeter, it's way sort of cakier, Christmas cakey.
Yeah.
It's kind of the split there. Like I say, I think Glendronach, of the 2 sherry-focused distilleries, Glendronach really leans into the 100% of the aspects of the sherry, whereas Glenfarclas kind of leans away from it. Theirs is always very, very understated, and I think I know what you're describing there. It sort of comes to as like a hot copper kind of a. There is a metal component.
Maybe the version of PX wood in Glendronach, which Glenfarclas I understand don't always go for.
Not typically. Although this is one of the few examples of Glendronach without the PX.
Exclusively Oloroso sherry. Cool.
So that makes it quite a bit different from their standard blend. So the 12, the 15, all those other ones, which have quite a wee bit of it in it. So not a light touch by any means, but light for Glendronach, I suppose. If you discount things like the Heelan, which actually distance themselves from the whole sherry thing to begin with.
As for scores, when I reviewed Glendronach Parliament on my own about 4 years back, I rated it a solid 90 points, as the 21-year-old expression. Our scoring has obviously evolved and shifted over time, so this one I'm going to rate, it is probably on par for excellence with the 21-year-old. Maybe because of obviously updating my scoring preferences and the way I gear things, this one gets a 93 from me. It is a superb whiskey and a superb Glendronach.
Yeah, it's 91 from me. I'm not sure whether I'd have to try a modern example of Parliament. I have had it fairly recently, but it's a whiskey that I've only ever really tasted. Funny enough, it's a super expensive 21-year-old. But I think on balance, I do prefer the Alladice because it's a more deft interpretation of what sherry matured whiskey can be, and I think it's increasingly, that makes it a rarer interpretation of what sherry whiskey can be. As sherry has become so popular in terms of, and in sort of it's been, what started as a crippling rarity has been inflected in terms of the marketing into, now it's super rare, now it's super, we're making Shivers Extra, it's all about the sherry, it's all super expensive. They really hoodwinked us on that one, turning a shortage into a windfall. But it has resulted in a lot of stuff that is 100% sherry being mega 100%, you know, this is what you asked for, this is what you paid for, damn it, you're going to get sherry by the truckload. This is one of a dying breed of things that, yes, it's matured in sherry, no, it's not out of its mind with sherry characters. They're there, but they're part of the whiskey, they're not the absolute end-all, be-all of the whiskey. And I think that's probably not a problem a great many whiskey drinkers have, but for someone who remembers the days of, you know, sherry matured whiskies that just didn't care, you know, they were fine. They were sherry matured whiskies, they weren't going to be cool about it. That's something I appreciate. So yeah, on balance, I think I'm probably more a fan of this one than the Parliament. But don't quote me until you see a bottle of Parliament sitting right here and us giving it a score. So.
And if you're looking to buy one for yourself, expect to pay maybe 60 to 80% more than you would for Glendronach 12, which I use as my baseline for assessing Glendronach prices.
Yeah,
it's most abundant, most accessible, most affordable.
The exponential Scotch price escalator continues its march towards the cosmos, but never mind. So that has been Glendronach Alladice. I hope that was of some use to you out there. We will bring something conceivably not quite as old, definitely not quite as old next time. We'll even have an age statement. We can't rely on anything. So, Sladro, we'll be back. Stick around.